Hey, 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 family. Another day on the right side of the dirt. Another day to get better. So, when I started out this YouTube journey and making these videos, I started sharing my life story and all the adversity and the challenges that I faced, and going through youth homes and detention centers and foster homes, and I've expressed that I've realized that a lot of you out there have went through the same experiences, that it's really nothing special. It's what's most personal to me is most universal out here in the world. And I wanted to continue to share some parts of my history. Um, so basically, my dad passed away in 2010. I was attempting to get sober at that time, and I went into a 2-month drunk and got my fifth drunk driving. Well, actually, let's go back a little bit further. So I already explained to you guys about my first long-term relationship of 8 years with the woman from Switzerland, and she was a bartender and a waitress, and it was a codependent relationship. Um, she was a partier, I was a partier. It was a relationship. It probably wasn't the most healthy relationship, but I lived through it. I've learned from those experiences. And just like all the experiences that we go through throughout our life and growing up, and we learn something from all of those. We get beliefs, we get opinions, we learn from all of those. All of the things that we have been through and that we have heard and that we have seen make up the the person that we are today. So I had mentioned that she left and went back to Switzerland, and my life kind of fell apart after that. I got even further into drug use and more out of control. Ended up losing my apartment while giving it up to one of my sisters, which I haven't talked to her in many years. But I'd given it up to her, and she was kind of living the same sort of lifestyle as I was living, and she ended up losing the place, and I ended up living with a friend, which is actually where I met the woman that I've been in a relationship with now for 20 years. And the next, I guess, loss or challenging time that I faced is when a friend of mine, who I actually bought drugs from, was killed. He was murdered. He was shot in the head in his car over here on the west side of town. A girl shot him in the head and killed him. And, I felt the loss. I was sad and all that. And it was another reason for me to participate in my abuse of alcohol and drugs. But yeah, that's just another experience that I went through in my past. I'm not sure how many people, lots of people might be able to say that they had a friend that was murdered, that was shot in the head. But through him, I had met another guy. We ran a little auto flipping shop. We were buying cars off eBay, fixing them up and selling them. And yeah, I ended up the whole circle of friends that I used to have in this town and any town. I don't have any of those associates anymore. So that was probably, what was that, in 06, 2006, when he was killed. I'd gotten a couple more drunk drivings since then, and been in and out of jail, in a couple more treatment programs, and was attempting to get sober when my dad passed away, 2010, and that sent me for a loop. Um, I had always held on to this belief that I would be able to have a normal relationship with my dad. And when he passed away, it shattered my way of thinking. Something that I was holding on to, what kind of defined me and the way I was thinking and all that. And a couple months after that, um, my significant other's daughter had her first baby, and he was born premature, and he was not supposed to live. So for a couple of months, we were dealing with that. I mean, he was born out of town at a hospital that did not deal with premature births, and so they brought an incubator up there and ambulance and brought him down to the hospital that does handle that, and he was in ICU, intensive care unit, in like an incubator type thing, man, with false light and underdeveloped lungs and all type of stuff. And um, yeah, so I'd been in a drunk for a couple of months now. That was in July of 2010. My dad passed away in May of 2010, and I was hanging out with a guy, and he gave me some anxiety medication, and I was already drinking, and I kind of totally blacked out. Drove off in a customer vehicle that dropped it off to me to repair the brake lines or something. And I blacked out, and I was out riding around in this dude's truck and got into an accident and ran into the back of a lady's car. And those are the facts. I could give you all types of other stuff, that opinions about it, but I ended up in jail for my fifth drunk driving. Was got 6 years and was going to be doing that 6 years. And luckily, there was a opportunity for me to do the challenge incarceration program for a shorter sentence. And well, anyway, the past is in the past. Uh, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. Today is all we've got. So I'm looking at all these past situations as so yeah, I got into the challenge incarceration program. Learned a whole bunch of skills. That's all this information here that I've got out here that I'm presenting these videos from. But the thing is, and I'm reading these nightly journal entries and everything, and you see the person's going through change and graduated that program. Part of that program, they had some people from a university come in and show us how to apply to college, how to apply for financial aid. And my upbringing until that point, I never thought college was even a possibility for me. I always wanted to learn more about working on cars because cars were coming in, got all these electronic sensors and stuff on the engines, and they control stuff. And I could take a car completely apart mechanically and put that thing back together, every nut and bolt. But I didn't understand how everything operated. So one of the things they taught me was how to apply to a college program, which I did. I got accepted, applied for financial aid because I was a ward of the state and other things like that. I qualified for maximum amount of financial aid, loans, all type of stuff. So I got out of this challenge incarceration program. And in that challenge incarceration program, I was also baptized by water. Um, that was another thing I did while I was in there. And got out of there, got into college. So it was April of 2012 that I got out of the challenge incarceration program. And then it was August that fall, I started the 2 year technical diploma. So I was released out of there and I went into a temporary living, TLP. It was just an apartment, shared it with another guy. It was paid for by, I don't know, probation and parole or whatever. And I got out of there, out of the TLP. I was working for the same guy that I'd been working for a long time. Kept going back to the same place. I could work there. But anyway, um, I think I was doing some relapse prevention and all that after getting out of the challenge incarceration program. And one of the things that came on the scene at that time was in gas stations and stuff was that Mr. Smiley, the Scooby snacks, the K2, and one of the things about it is that you wouldn't test positive on a drug test, a piss test. So being on probation and parole, having to take urine tests and this and that, started using that, and yeah, started using that, started got out of that TLP, ended up living in a room, renting a room when I started college from actually a probation agent. She was renting to college students, and they were headed off to Saudi Arabia for few months or something, and she was renting out a room. So got into there. Then my grandma ended up telling me about a guy that was renting a room out real close to the college. And I ended up moving in there when the guys came back from Saudi Arabia. And it was shortly after that was just a couple of blocks, not too far from where all the guys that I hung out with had shops and this and that. And started hanging around the same crowd. Eventually started drinking again, started doing cocaine again. And yeah, having financial aid. I was paying my bills. I was staying off the street at that time. But eventually it turned out, I ended up taking me a lot longer to graduate college and ended up out of state, staying out of state with my mom and my brother for a while. Um, so, yeah, this relationship that I've been in for 20 years, that was kind of put on hold and everything during that incarceration and living at the TLP and moving in with that probation agent and then moving into this room that was being rented. And then I ended up losing that room because I was partying and I think I had taken a break from school and just dropped out for the semester and headed out of state. Um, but yeah, ultimately ended up in 2015 getting my sixth OWI, my sixth drunk driving. And that really, 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 that was an eye-opening moment for me. Oh, I had actually ended up back here from out of state. Was living in a trailer with another guy. That was causing issues between him and his significant other. So I ended up leaving there and getting a room at a monthly hotel, and then to another monthly hotel, and then to another monthly hotel. Here I am, I'm out running around, bar hopping and stuff again. Back to the same old stuff, man. And got that sixth OWI. I was leaving the bar, giving a guy a ride. Just picked up some cocaine. Was beyond drunk. And that's the sixth drunk driving. That's the one that I took to trial. See, because I was trying to get out of it, trying not to accept responsibility for it. Didn't want to go back to prison. Thought I was going to go to prison for a long time. But was for 4 or 5 hours. I was working at a shop, and they were doing body work and painting, and I heard how paint fumes and all this can cause you to fail a breathalyzer. So that's what I was. That's what I used as my defense. And yeah, that's when I took the welding and fabrication program that I told you guys about in the previous video. So I was enrolled back in my automotive program, but I was using that K2. That shit sent me for a loop, and when I got angry about how my life was and this and that. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. So that was like March of 2015. I got that six drunk driving. And I didn't get sober. I was still doing the same shit. Then I was fighting the courts and this and that. And in the middle there, fighting the drunk driving and this and that. And I started to see with clarity, man. I attribute it to the Holy Spirit, to God helping me realize that I'm out here waddling around in a pig pen. But out of nowhere, man, I flipped out. I started to think that people were out to get me and all types of stuff, and ended up getting out of that situation. Um, Ended up dropping back out of the automotive program. Was at a food pantry and got into that welding fabrication program. Left and went out of town. Remember in my that videos that I've told you guys about a little bit. And got into that welding and fabrication program, and that's October of 2015. And that's when I got sober. It was March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 7, 8 months after that six drunk driving. But for 9 months, up to the time that I went to court and got sentenced for that, I was sober. And I got a really light sentence. And it was an opportunity, and I did not waste that opportunity. And here I am in 2025, been sober since. And yeah, but all that is in the past. So right now, I'm gonna start focusing on now, what I actually can have control over now. Those experiences made me who I am, gave me a lot of insight, a lot of resilience. It allowed me to develop the spirit to overcome stuff. It made me a very resourceful person, put it that way. So we're going to put the past behind us. We're going to start from working from today forward. So now that I've finished up that life history, we can move forward with implementing these skills and starting this actual internal recovery that it's kind of hadn't been started yet. I've just been in sobriety and abstinence for many, many years now, 9 years. It'll be 10 years in about 8 months. It'll be 10 years, so I want to go over something here this video will be a little bit longer than the ones on anxiety. I had to break those down, but so one of the next things we're getting into, I already went through the Rational Emotive Therapy, and that's the title of the video, Rational Emotive Therapy. I went through that packet, but in that packet was this little chart here, and this is the Rational Emotive Therapy view on how our behavior is affected. And if you read the bottom down here, it says, it is our varying beliefs and attitudes which account for our individual feelings about events. Okay? So our beliefs and our attitudes account for our feelings about events, situations, things that we encounter in life. All right? So feelings, emotions. So if we want to, all right, so let me get into this. Let me get a couple things out of the way here, because we're going to get into some heavy stuff here where it is actually the groundwork for developing the life we want to live, erasing our mental programming, relearning our mental programming. It's not going to be easy, but it's simple. Emotional reactions are a result of how you evaluate events that happen in your life. It is not the event that is upsetting, but what you tell yourself about the event, the situation, or the facts that are presented. You act the way you feel, and you feel the way you think. Rational thinking is the form of self-talk. Rational thinking in the form of self-talk is something that all of us practice daily in our lives, at least to some extent. You naturally want your beliefs to be true. You want to survive. You prefer positive moods over negative ones, pleasure over pain, and so on. Irrational thinking leads to sustained emotional difficulties. To overcome emotional difficulties, you must learn to think more rationally. Then you will feel less angry and or depressed and be able to take more rational actions. RET, Rational Emotive Therapy, uses the ABCD model as a procedure for recognizing irrational thinking, the accompanying disturbed feelings, and effectively disputing those irrational ideas, with the result being the creation of healthier emotions. Okay? So let me say that part again. The ABCD model as a procedure for recognizing irrational thinking, the accompanying disturbed feelings, and effectively disputing those irrational ideas, with the result being the creation of healthier emotions. Here are 5 criteria for evaluating a rational thought, and they may be used to rationally challenge our belief. So I gave you 5 other questions in another video, but these ones here, these 5 questions may be used to help evaluate a thought to see if it is rational. Does it do anything to protect or maintain my life? Is it based on concrete fact? Okay. Is this thought based on concrete fact? We're going to learn how to do all this when I get to these thinking reports and these thought records, That's going to be the actual work process. But does it make me feel the way I want to feel? Is it helping me to get what I want? And does it keep me out of trouble with others? I know I said I was going to stop doing that, but there they are. Highly readable because it's so big, but that's the questions. All right. Figured I'd give you guys time to pause it and write it down. Let's get to the back side of that. All right. So, upset feelings are usually caused by the way we are thinking about what is happening, not the events themselves. To change your feelings and your behaviors, try the following: exchange vocabulary. This idea was given by a client who related it to an exchange list for unhealthy foods. And put this together. When you first try this new way of thinking, it may not feel right. The more you do it, however, the more natural these realistic beliefs will become. I think you will like the results, but prove it to yourself by giving it a fair try. Okay? Good luck. So instead of thinking, maybe you guys can read that too. Yeah. So we'll do the top ones there first. Instead of thinking these, to give you time to be able to pause it and copy it down. That's probably long enough for that. Now I'm going to do the bottom one. All right. And yeah, just me reading these will just make the video longer, but I'm not going to read them because I believe you can pause the video and expand it and check that out. So that's that. And then this next pamphlet that I've got here came with the Rational Emotive Therapy handout in my program. And they're interventions. So interventions for depression, interventions for the need to control, interventions for preoccupation with sex as a mood-altering activity, believing sex will help me escape my problems, interventions for low self-esteem and worthlessness, and then interventions for wanting to quit changing, wanting to quit doing something positive or whatnot. Okay, so for depression here, which goes right along with anxiety. Anxiety can lead to depression, so we're right after the anxiety videos. Use rational emotive therapy to manage the feelings for depression. Okay, depression is a disturbed emotion generally, meaning it is so big it takes all your energy just to maintain it. Look at your beliefs about the situation. Are they rational, or are you engaging in thinking errors, shoulding, awfulizing, or judging yourself or others very harshly? Make sure your thoughts are based on fact, that they help you in attaining your goals, and that they